Let's take a look at ActionScript 3.0 functions. I'm going to go to the first keyframe of the Actions layer in my file here and open up the Actions panel by pressing Option F9 on the Mac or F9 on the PC. You define a function in ActionScript 3.0 by using the keyword function. So that's all lowercase. Type function and then a space and the name of your function. So let's say I call it my function. Then you type some parentheses, a colon, and define the return data type. If the function has no return data, the return data type is void, and that's all lowercase. The function is then defined within curly braces. So type open and close curly braces, and here we put the function code. So let's say my function code simply traces some numbers. So it's going to trace 3 plus 4. So I'll wrap that in the parentheses and then type a semicolon after it. And in ActionScript 3.0, you run a function by calling the function's name. So my function, some parentheses, and then a semicolon. So I'll test the movie, Command Return on the Mac, Control Enter on the PC, and I'll see the result in the output window, which is 7. That's the result of 3 plus 4. Functions in ActionScript 3.0 can hold parameters, which are also known as arguments. So let's say I'm going to pass in two numbers. Num1, I'm going to data type it as a number. So I'm going to put that in the parentheses where I define the function. And then I'm going to define another parameter by typing a comma, and then the name of the second parameter. So num2, colon, number, capital N. Now when I run the function, I'll need to pass in a value for num1 and num2. So it'll be a number, a comma, and then another number. So let's say I wanted to trace 3 plus 4, so I'll type 3 comma 4, and then I'm going to replace the 3 and the 4 with num1 and num2 inside of the function. And then I'll test the movie using Command Return on the Mac or Control Enter on the PC. I'll see the same result in the output window. Functions in ActionScript can also return values. So let's say I wanted to return a number. I'm going to change the return data type from void to number. And I'm going to change that trace statement to return num1 plus num2 using the return keyword. So I'll type return and a space and then num1 plus num2. And I'll make sure to delete that close parenthesis there. Now what I can do is wrap the call to my function in a trace statement here. So I'll type trace and then some parentheses around the call to my function. Then we'll see that same result in the output window. So basically what's happening is my function runs, the data is returned, and then my function, or the value of the call to my function here, is 7 when we pass in 3 and 4. You can also use a function call as a value for a variable. So let's say I created a variable above this function called my num. Data type it to a number, and I'll set it equal to my function, capital F, 5 comma 6, and close parenthesis and a semicolon. So the data type for this function when I run it is a number because its return data type is number. So now if I trace the value of my num, I'm going to get the result that is returned from running my functions passing in 5 and 6, which when I test the movie should be 11 in the output window. So to create a function, use the function keyword, type a space, the name of the function, parentheses, with any arguments or parameters inside of the parentheses separated by commas. After the parentheses, declare the return data type of the function using a colon. If there is no return data, the data type is void. If you do have a return data type, you'll need a return statement inside of your function. A return statement just has the word return as space, then the value to return. The value needs to be the same data type as the return data type of the function. And then to run a function, you just type the name of the function, parentheses, then any parameters you're passing in separated by commas.